All right, guys. Full week, obviously. Game tomorrow against a good Miami team who's playing really well right now. Just won at Marshall, won 4 of the last 5 games they've played here, and got a great, very skilled group that is difficult. Their offensive efficiency, their effective field goal percentage is really good. I think because of their skill, they're a disciplined group and well coached, and need to have a readiness to play tomorrow. And obviously our second Big Ten game over the weekend. We'll talk more about that after the game tomorrow.
How does a game like this come about? Was this just a byproduct of Big Ten scheduling, of trying to, you don't want to have 7 days off in between league games, but to play a Big Ten game and then a non-conference like this, how's this?
Yeah, I think, you've got to get a certain number of games in, Adam, and I think when you're scheduling, you're not exactly sure always when you're going to be playing these 2 Big Ten games. There's a window of time, so you're trying to make sure you don't have too long of time off here. It's a little bit of a time crunch, to be honest with you, like I said, we're playing a team that's playing really well, so there's obviously some concerns. We need to be ready to go, ready to play. I think that's the biggest thing. You're trying not to have too long of a time off and keep your guys in a groove of playing.
And obviously Travis is a coach that people in Ohio know. He's been in the state for a little while now. Do you see similarities the way they play compared to what he was doing at Xavier?
There's some similarities for sure, but there's also some differences. They're different offensively than what they were when he was there. Predicated on like great spacing and skill. They've got some really good young players, a couple returning players that have done some really high level things for them, and then some transfers. So not unlike what most college basketball teams look like, but there's definitely some similarities.
Chris, I know you guys are only 8 games in, so maybe it's a small sample size, but the defensive steal percentage is up pretty significantly since the last couple of seasons. Has that factored in at all in terms of the defensive approach this year? I know bringing Dale, part of that was his active hands.
Yeah. Our defensive, I think some of that, all those numbers, it'll be interesting to see kind of what they look like, another 8-10 games. I think that's when you can really start to say, hey, there are some things that are either improved upon or some things maybe that need to be improved upon. But I think, I think we have a little more length and a little more team quickness, and I think that might have something to do with that. But I'm anxious to see what it looks like with a bigger sample size.
And we talked about this a little bit last week, but with Evan, he's given you guys a lot in other departments. As far as his shot selection goes, like what kind of shots do you want him taking, and what kind of shots do you want him staying away from?
His shot selection has been pretty good. He shot a couple of walled up shots where he wasn't playing with offensive force, which he doesn't need to do. But time and space threes, he needs to continue to take. We know he can make those, and then the ability to drive and play off that is something that he's good. And then he obviously needs to be really good on the glass.
You mentioned guys needing to be ready for this one. Do you think there is any issue coming from a big emotional Big Ten win? You have a Big Ten game on the weekend, kind of shoehorning this in there. Are you concerned about that at all?
Sure, you're always concerned about it as a coach, always. I think, and you're right, you don't have to look very far at college basketball. It's a good Miami team. Travis does a great job with them. There's an in-state school. There's all the motivation there. So yeah, absolutely. I think we need to have a readiness to play and great preparation. But yeah, absolutely. I think your antenna's up as a coach, just because of the reality of college basketball right now. Is real, and anybody who follows scores and watches scores knows that.
When you look at what Bruce has given you guys, especially offensively recently, is this when you kind of thought what his season may look like, at least to start? Is this kind of how you projected him out, or is he giving you more than even you thought he might?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he'd take a real step. I don't know if as a coach you ever kind of sit in the off season and say, hey, this is kind of the specifics of which, what we think a player can get to. We just felt like he would really take a step. What that looked like and what that's going to continue to look like, is yet to be defined. But he's obviously had a phenomenal start. And again, I credit so much to his everyday approach that's allowed him to have a level of consistency that's been really high level.
And I asked some of the guys about him the other night, and both of them said leadership first. And I know obviously with giving him captaincy last year and all that, that's been a big thing. But has that continued to grow? Has he taken another step in that department?
Yeah, and I think his greatest leadership attribute right now is his everyday approach. When you're led by a guy who's coming to practice every day to work, that's who you want to lead your group first and foremost. A guy who does that and cares about the team. Guys that can't do that, you're really reluctant to say, hey, we're going to give you a captaincy. If you're inconsistent in your practice habit, your work habits, it's just really hard to say, hey, we want you to lead this group right now. He's all of that in terms of his consistency, which gives him, I think, a great voice.
Having had a couple days to watch the film now, what areas of interior defense do you guys need to improve on to stop a performance like Dawson Garcia had?
Yeah, I think we just need to be better collectively against a kid like that, both in our presence one-on-one and then also our digs, ball side. And then, as I mentioned, I think I could have adjusted a little bit earlier than what I did in the game, perhaps, and that might have helped our guys. And that's something we need to work on more in practice in terms of where we're coming from if we are trapping. And so I think those were good lessons for us coming out of a game like that for sure.
For Jamison, the way he asserted himself early in that game, obviously, some of it might be a product of the emotions of that game for him, but also, that's something you want to see from a player as the season continues, right? And how involved he's going to be in the offense. Like, what is there a message coming out of that of, hey, find your shot early and do that more often?
Not really. It's just more, continue to grow and figure out your level of comfort within how we play and how we play offensively and stay aggressive. And, we're talking to him about, the importance of being a complete player and rebounding better and defending and staying aggressive offensively. It's not geared towards any one aspect of his game, but I think he just has to continue to grow in his comfort level.
I think Jamison and Bruce have represented you in the captain's meeting before each game. Have you settled on captains? Are they your captains?
Well, those guys have both played a significant role of leadership, but in terms of any formal announcements, I'm not going to be doing that anytime soon. But those guys have both exhibited a lot of leadership, along with some other guys.
As a whole, I know the main thing you're looking for is start strong and play well. But like when you look at like what your starting lineup is giving you, like what do you like about that five-some, and what do you look for them not just from starting a game, but just how they perform over the length of the whole game?
Good starts to both halves is kind of really what you're looking for. It's so important, and I don't think we've always done that this year. Particularly in the second half, I'm not sure we've had great starts. So, but that's what you're looking for: defensive presence and aggressiveness on both ends to start. So I think that group can do a better job with some of those things. But that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at the stats for Big Ten. You guys are right now you're first in 3-point percentage and also first in free throw percentage. So I guess was that something that you were expecting maybe coming into the season to have such a fast start on both those areas? And what does that kind of say about the start you guys have had?
I think I did feel like we had a better shooting team than what we showed early. I think I said that to you guys. And a better free throw shooting team than what we said early. But again, I think, schedules are weighted a little bit differently right now, you know, so like Wisconsin's played a really hard non-conference schedule, you know, so that though there's just gonna be a little bit of a difference. There's not an equality of schedules right now. I think we played a good schedule. But once we get into games and we really go against each other, and we get more of a sample size, I think if those numbers stay consistent, will it shock me? No. But I think, you know, I'm not sure I would have went into the season saying that, but I'm waiting to see a bigger sample size.
I guess like what's like the way to stay consistent throughout the season? Is it just a matter of focus? Is it maybe conditioning with free throws or?
Yeah, I think it's sharing the ball. And I've always said with free throws, it's about getting your good free throw shooters to the line. That's typically what the best free throw shooting teams do. They get their best free throw shooters to the line the most, and they stay away from their poor free throw shooters getting the line a whole lot. So it sounds, you know, pretty basic and elementary, but it's really important. So there's no real tricks we're doing in terms of free throw shooting, and if we have a tough night shooting free throws, you know, we'll figure out, you know, what we have to do to address that. But I think more than anything, you want trying to get your best free throw shooters to the line.
Mahaffey struggled a little bit offensively. It feels like you have him in the game at the beginning against whoever maybe is the best 2, 3, 4 on the other team to kind of make their start a little more miserable, I suppose. Is that an easy way to put it? That he's there to make sure that their guy doesn't get going?
I would say, Steve, it's more about, we just feel like when he's out there, he's a ball mover. He brings energy to the glass. I think defensively, he's got to get better in some of those areas. He's got to get better in areas defensively. And offensively, he knows that. But he does bring an energy and an athleticism and a length and a willingness to move the ball that we like, that I feel like complements that group. So that's probably more than anything why he's with that group right now.
Bruce, I think, had 3 3-point plays in the game the other night. I think Roddy had at least 1. I don't know, can't recall guys doing many more than 3 in a single game. It's probably happened, but just feels like he's playing bully ball with people at times. And those guys were younger, smaller guards that it was pretty obvious just looking at the sheet that he might have that type of strength advantage. But is that an area that maybe he's finishing plays that he wasn't able to finish maybe a year ago as that freshman maybe?
For sure. I think a year ago this time, for sure. I'm not sure he was finishing those plays as much. I think as the season went on, we started to see him finish those plays more. But yeah, I think there were matchups that we thought could be in our benefit in that game, and there were some matchups like Garcia that we were certainly concerned about. So, you know, tomorrow night he's playing against some bigger, stronger guards. But Bruce has shown the ability to attack and get others involved, which is great.
Now that the net ranking is out, is there anything encouraging relating to the metrics of that, or where you guys fall initially?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think I would have if it wasn't kind of out there in the internet space. I would not have even seen it because I just don't pay attention to it this early. I think somebody mentioned that one of you guys had put it out there. So thanks, guys. So I don't. It's so early, you know. I do think in scheduling, you know, you're looking and saying, okay, both with all the metrics that the NCAA evaluates, you know, as you schedule and as you play, what's the best way to get the necessary home games and the schedule in a way that puts you in a good position at the end of the year with your non-conference. So for that reason, it is interesting to see that number and look at that number and then evaluate what we've done up to this point as it relates to maybe scheduling next year.
So do you want to hear where you are in bracketology right now then too?
No, I do not.
Because it's real important on December the 5th.
I don't know.
Bracketology.
No.
There's 3 months till the
I'm
real.
gonna, go earmuffs here for a minute, but no, I'm good.
I did want to ask you about when you're recruiting a player like Felix and someone who's not from this country and has established himself here, but what goes into like building that relationship with somebody and someone who comes from an exceptional background like he does? Like how do you establish that common ground and make a place where it feels like a comfortable landing place for him?
Well, I mean, it helped that he had a great family that he was living with in Tennessee. I think that really helped because they're tremendous people. They're just a beautiful family that he's become very close with. And Felix was always pretty easy to talk to. He's such a bright kid. He's pretty easy to talk to over the phone, even though occasionally his English would maybe there would be some confusion there when you're doing it over the phone. But he was really an easy kid to recruit, an easy kid to talk to, and has been raised really well by his family here and his family back home.
And then when you have international players, like obviously you had Ibrahima a couple years ago, but is there anything extra you have to do for like just support while they're here? Do you do anything extra for international guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think nothing beyond what we do for a typical student. I think occasionally there's some academic considerations that you're making, but beyond that, there's nothing specific. Anything else, guys? All right, thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thanks.